10 months ago, I made a remarkably unhelpful video about the best keybinds to use in Rainbow Six Siege that, to my surprise, blew up, stamping my name into the online Siege community forever. So today, with the expansion of knowledge and experience I have gained, I will make a better, remastered version that will hopefully actually give you answers. Although my point still stands that you have to find them yourself and literally just play with what's comfortable for you, I'll provide real examples of what other better Siege players use and once again go over my own binds. Just like last video, feel free to comment what your binds are and use the comments as a discussion area. I did this last time, so I'm just gonna insert the clip from the last video, but these are the default binds. You're gonna be using Q and E to lean, Control to prone, C to crouch, F to interact, G to throw your utility, V to melee, 1 for your primary, 2 for your secondary, 5 for your camera, and 6 for your drone. Now, the default settings really aren't bad at all, and a lot of people get really good using them. But I think there is a slight problem when you use default settings. Now, I still stand by the fact that using Q and E isn't the best simply because you use the same fingers for moving, which could limit your ability to learn how to do certain peaks, especially as a beginner. I say this and seem to be the only one in the Siege community concerned about binds, because back when Fortnite was the talk of the town, everybody and their mothers had different keybinds, with tips and tricks such as not using the same fingers you use for movement, and that makes sense. You want to be able to always use your WASD keys and move around when you're leaning and throwing utility, etc. Now obviously there are many pros such as Spoit that still use these buttons, but once again, it's all about being optimal. The debate of hold lean or toggle lean didn't come up in my last video, so I'd like to go over it now. I personally use toggle simply because that's what I'm used to, and I don't use my movement fingers for leaning, meaning I can click and re-click the lean button several times without interrupting movement. The dynamic between your leans and your movement becomes very important as you get better and start learning peaks, and so if you do use Q and E, I recommend you do what good old Spoit does and use hold instead of toggle. Once again, if you can't come up with what's right for you, copy the pros. As for crouching and proning, I have them switched around from default binds simply because in other games that I used to play a lot, crouching was always on the control button and that's what I'm used to. The same logic goes for whether I use toggle or hold crouching. Whichever one I use is just because that's what I'm used to. And at last, after all this time, I'll be finally giving you some solid suggestions in what I call keybind categories. Very original name. The first type is people like me who are weird and use buttons off to the side with their thumb. I personally use F for left leaning and G for right leaning, once again effectively freeing my movement fingers as I use my thumb to press them. Alternatively, one of my friends that I coached used C and V. This is understandably more comfortable, especially for people who aren't maniacs like me and tilt their keyboard in funny ways. This does make you have to change many of your binds around though, since C is defaulted on crouching and V is for melee. The next category is the mouse button goons. Yes, you. Overwhelming amounts of comments glazing side buttons just paraded my last binds video, and I get it. It is pretty intuitive to use these buttons, and I even use them too for my utility. However, my argument still stands that it could negatively impact your aim, especially when things get fast-paced. To each their own, and my suggestions are to either use both mouse buttons for leaning in an orientation that makes sense to you, such as the upper one being right and the lower one being left, or to use one mouse button for your right lean and the key on your keyboard for left lean. This only makes sense because of the mouse button being to the far right while a key would be on the far left of your keyboard, such as Q. That would make sense, I think. I have tried this and it is super awkward to me, but it's just something to think about that you can still use both your mouse and your keyboard. And now for the boring chaps category, the defaults. Now there isn't much variation with this one, obviously, aside from maybe toggle lean versus hold lean, but I have seen people that use numbers, for example, or even have Q and E switched around so that Q leans right and vice versa. Yeah, I don't know, it gets weird. Speaking of weird, we have the last category. These are the absolute monstrosities of my comment section. Get inspired by these, cringe, close your eyes in horror, do whatever you'd like with the information that follows. This one isn't even that bad, I just kind of fuck with it, so I'm gonna show you. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here. Holy moly. DPI buttons as any bind is crazy work. Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, bro, I feel you, yeah, I feel you. Meh. Also, what's with all these suggestions to change my movement keys entirely? I don't really get it. Like the, what was it? QWAS? Yeah, I don't get it, bro. Which fingers am I using for what? The last thing I want to say before I wrap this up is that I'm very thankful for the success the last binds video had, so you know I'm going to be milking it. And I'm going to make a video playing with all your suggested binds, so leave them down below so I can try them out. Anyways, guys, I really want to hit 1,000 subs before the end of 2024, so make sure to subscribe and do all that. Okay, bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.